If you don't clean this room, I'll read you the Riot Act. We say it as a warning, but few know its bloody origins. The phrase comes from 18th century Britain, where it meant more than a scolding. It was a legal threat of deadly force. When a magistrate read the Riot Act, it was the last warning before violence was unleashed on crowds. This wasn't about family squabbles or workplace discipline. It was about state power and public order. The Riot Act's history reveals how language can be weaponized. To understand, we must go back to 1714, a time of political chaos. Queen Anne had died without an heir, leaving Britain divided and anxious. The question, would Britain stay Protestant or return to Catholicism? The Act of Settlement named the German House of Hanover as heirs, bypassing many Catholic claimants. The new king, George I, was a foreigner to most Britons. He didn't even speak English. Jacobite supporters of James Stewart saw their chance, and riots erupted across the country. Effigies burned, meeting houses destroyed, and the government feared rebellion. They needed a tool to crush dissent and enforce the new regime's authority. That tool became the Riot Act. The phrase we use so casually today was once a countdown to state-sanctioned violence. Understanding this history connects us to the struggles of those who lived through it. It's a reminder, words can carry the weight of life and death. The story of the Riot Act is a window into a darker, more volatile past. Let's uncover how this law changed Britain forever. Queen Anne's death in 1714 ended the Stuart dynasty and brought George I, a German Protestant, to the throne. Many Britons saw him as an outsider, fueling unrest and Jacobite plots to restore the Catholic line. Riots swept the nation, with mobs attacking supporters of the new king. The government, led by Robert Walpole, faced a legitimacy crisis and the threat of civil war. Existing laws couldn't control the chaos. The solution, a new law empowering local authorities to act swiftly and decisively. Passed in 1715, the Riot Act gave the state legal grounds to use deadly force if crowds refused to disperse. It was a law born of fear, designed to inspire fear. The phrase, "read the Riot Act," was once a literal trigger for violence. The Riot Act made it a felony for 12 or more people to remain after being ordered to disperse. Local officials, mayors, sheriffs, justices, had to approach crowds and read a precise proclamation. The wording had to be exact. Any mistake could make force illegal. This put officials at great personal risk, standing between angry mobs and state power. The act criminalized protest, granting the government sweeping authority to suppress dissent. It was about command, not compromise. The Riot Act shaped how Britain handled public disorder for centuries. The magistrate's proclamation was a script from Parliament invoking the King's authority. Our sovereign lord the King commands all persons assembled to disperse or face the penalties of the Act. God save the King. Once read, the crowd had exactly 1 hour to leave. This was the final warning, a 60-minute window to avoid being declared felons, punishable by death. If 12 or more remained after the hour, the assembly became illegal. Authorities and their helpers could then use force, even lethal, with legal protection. The reading of the act was the key that unlocked this deadly power. For those present, it was an hour to live or to risk death. The Riot Act was not just a warning, it was a license for violence. The state's authority was absolute, and the consequences were often fatal. Defying the Riot Act often led to bloodshed. At the Gordon riots, Peterloo massacre, and more. The act became a symbol of state oppression, a tool to crush dissent. Reading the Riot Act was once a moment when protest could turn to massacre. Over time, the act was repealed, and its threat faded from memory. The phrase softened, moving from the streets to homes and offices. Today, few realize its violent past, but behind this everyday saying lies a history of struggle, rebellion, and state power. The Riot Act may be gone, but its story and its warning should never be forgotten.